Okay, so continuing with the last session, what we are going to do is we are going to configure NAT rule, and this will be dynamic natting. Okay, so for dynamic natting, what you need is you need a pool of IP addresses. So what you're going to do is at this place we'll have a pool of IP addresses. Okay, and what we want is anyone coming from here or coming from here, which means anyone coming from this interface or anyone coming from this interface. Okay, they should be able to use this pool and go out. We have already done the routing and everything in the last sessions, right? So let's configure this up. So very first elements, right? You need how many objects? You need one object for this subnet. You need another object for the IP pool, right? Okay, let's go to the firewall console and configure these. Now this is how you configure objects. You need to use this keyword called object. Just give me a minute. Clear configure should run. I don't think so I have any objects. Yes, so this is how you create objects. Object network, give the name. So this is for internal. So object network internal 10.1.1.0. You can give description internal subnet. And now what can you define here is the main question. You can write a fully qualified domain name. You can write down host. So if you want to write down a single host, use keyword host. If you want to write down range, means you want to select only specific IP of a particular subnet, use keyword range. And use subnet if you want to define a whole subnet. So I would go for a subnet 10.1.1.0 255.255.255. This becomes one object. Show running. There's a command called show run object. This will show you the statement in a single line, because this becomes very complicated when you have too many objects on the console. And okay, so this is another command. If you know the name of the object, you can also use to filter this anything which begins with so if you know the, so it's a recommendation and it's a good practice that you use some sensible name while defining the object, so you remember them based on the name. Okay, so one object ready. Another one, object network. Another network is for here also subnet is 192.168.1.0. Create another one. Three objects. Now what do we do next? Writing down the rule. Okay, So same rule. Okay, if you are using Auto-NAT, then if you do something like this, going back to your original object, which is object network, and you say internal underscore 10110, that's the name of the object. You remember there's a keyword NAT, singleton object, so you can use this keyword called NAT here. Okay, again, like we discussed in the previous section, you need to tell what is the source zone when the packet is coming, and the source IP of the packet is, okay, let's try to understand it here. Just give me a minute, let me just try to settle this portion. I think we have sufficient space here, so I move this a bit down, and that's enough. Okay, so let's say if you have a packet, okay, and this packet is actually coming from the IP address of your PC, which is 10.1.100, okay, and it's going to go to, yeah, maybe 4.2.2.2, that's your destination, and let's say it's a TCP packet wherein your source port is something random 1 2 3 4 5, and your destination port is, let's say, 23. Okay, and here is your telnet data. Okay, in this case, when you receive this packet on the firewall interface, what do you think is the source IP address here? So when the packet comes, the source information is this, which is 10.1.1 subnet, right? So it comes to this interface, so this becomes your source. So source is internal. You want this translation to happen when it's going to outside, and the translation type is which one, static or dynamic? Dynamic. So dynamic, and you can define a mapped IP address if you know, otherwise you can define a mapped network or object. So we already have an object, right? And that object name was mapped dash IP dash pool. I think it was underscore, if I'm not wrong. No. Empty object detected. Okay, shucks, my fault. Okay, the problem here is the object what I created is in. Okay, so there's a problem with the object where we were writing the rule, not with the object. So let me just delete this, and in fact delete this. Show run object. Okay, and we use the name from here, so it's object network INTERNAL underscore 10110. This is the object, and this is where you have to write down the rule. NAT internal, outside, dynamic, and the name of the pool, which is mapped IP. Okay, so mapped dash IP dash pool. Okay, show running NAT is how you check the statement. Now this comes in piece. Okay, half of the information you would see it like this, show run object, and half of the information you would see like this, show run NAT. Okay, so for your internal 10110, which is defined here very first, which is defined here, what do you see? Here is the rule. Okay, there will be cases. Now this is one of the case, and what you can do is you can go to your internal client here, and you can do a telnet to okay, you are able to go, but there is no password set. So what I can do is let's do few things. Config T, hostname is done, then name, I am turning it to HTTP server also. Okay, I am configuring username admin with privilege 15 for web access, and password as Cisco. Okay, and I'm going to line VTY024 login local. Okay, enable password is again Cisco. Okay, so at this point, for testing purpose, if you go back in admin Cisco, okay, and if you go back to your firewall, you probably have to use these commands. Show xlate is one of the command which shows you the translation table entry, as you can see here. So it says the NAT is from internal, so the packet was coming from, I received the packet, this packet source from on this interface of the firewall, which is internal interface. Do you get this? Okay, then next is what? To outside, because as per the routing table, your destination address, which is 4222, you can see here, show connection. So as per routing table, your destination 4222 to go to this destination 4222, okay, from inside you have only one route, which is this, which is through, right? So as a part of this, okay, where is your translation rule? Okay, it's in here. So as a part of this, your translation rule, which is show running object inline includes internal. Okay, in this subnet, which is 10.1.1.0, show running NAT include internal, not include. What do you see here? Outside, outgoing. Source internal, subnet is 10.1.1 in the packet. This matches as per the routing table decision. Outside, this matches. So what do? We give you an IP from this pool, mapped pool. Show running object, which is here. So you get IP address of 51. Show, you can check this by saying show excellent. So you get IP address as .53, one of the IP from the pool. Okay, and this flag here, this small flag here, tells you what type of translation it is. Small I means dynamic. It's a dynamic translation. Okay. Now we have multiple. Yeah. So for production, again, what you can do is you can write down the rule like this. What's the object meant? Show run object production and the subnet. Okay. So it's object network production 192.168.1.0, and here you will write down NAT production to outside dynamic, and I don't know.
So one pool we can use for multiple inside.
Yeah, there are other ways also. Okay, so show, now this is how you check your rules. Show run NAT is one statement, or show NAT is another statement. Okay, pay attention to this, that your NAT rule goes to
Section 2.
why? Because these keywords, the NAT statement, are written within the objects. Okay, clear configure NAT, show running, no NAT rule. Okay, no translations. Okay, and let's remove all the connections. There's nothing now. Now we configure the translation rule. Okay, another one. This is for dynamic patting. Okay, so
what we did is a dynamic
NAT 1-to-1. Now what I do is dynamic pat. Okay, so show running objects. Okay, so let's configure the patting here. So what you do is you say object network, go back to your original object, internal 10.1.1, write down the rule NAT from internal to outside dynamic, and here you write down keyword interface. So when you write down keyword interface, okay, how do you relate this? Basically you have given this statement. And then you have written here NAT
internal.
Okay, just give me a minute. This particular thing, this one, let me put it in blue. So here you have said
Outside
comma
dynamic interface.
yes. So this particular portion here maps to this, and this particular portion here I'll put it in another color, green. Okay, this maps to another object. Let me first write down that. You have to say dynamic and you have to say interface. Okay, so here this one is your translation, put it in black, and here I'll put it in red. So this is how it goes. Okay, so how do you relate this? So what you're saying is this portion, the blue one, maps to your internal. When you're saying interface, it means use the IP address of interface. Again, the very first thing what I told you is you need to know what the real IP. Here, when the packet is coming with the real IP, it comes to which interface of the firewall? It comes to internal interface of the firewall. Good. Next, what?
Translation.
What IP do you want to get it translated to? Which is outside, right? And your zone is, destination zone is outside. So real IP, real zone, mapped IP, destination zone. So this one binds with this, and this information binds with this value. Do you get this? So using keyword interface, you are saying use IP address of this interface, whichever interface is written second. Do you get this? So are we done with this rule? Yeah, we have already done this portion. Okay.
So it will net with outside interface.
IP, yes. Show.
It is public.
Yeah. Show name if it's outside is redundant to.
Yeah.
Okay. Show running interface redundant to. So basically, it will take IP address 1111. Okay. So again, what you got to do is go to your client. Again, access internet, which is router 4. Check your IP. Your IP should be 1. You get translated to 11. Star is you in this case, and your IP is 1111. Okay, and if you go back to your firewall, show, you get translated to 111, but a different port number. Okay. So clear local host, clear translations, clear configure NAT. Show running NAT. There are no NAT rules. Okay. Now next section we'll see a combination of these NAT and PAT rules together. Okay.